tomorrow night, 1 hour away after the show. Here's Chris.
Hello, I am Chris Cuomo, and it is time for me to make my witness. What do you say? Let's get after it. Here's my food for thought, all right? We are in a weird place, my brothers and sisters. And by we, I mean most of us who are trapped by some of us. The fringe domination. You know it, I know it, and it has to be said, it must end. Now, people don't do that because they don't want to get savaged on social media, but for me, that's called Wednesday. This is America's greatest challenge. Not Russia, China, Iran, the sneaky Saudis, not global warming, not the southern border. No one and nothing can do to us what we're doing to ourselves. That's the truth. The problem isn't that, we're just incessantly debating problems and solutions. No, we're not. No, we're not. What we have is a toxic tornado of grievance. Minority malcontents, mostly, have been allowed to co-opt our politics. Why? How could this happen? 2 reasons. While there are not enough anti-vaxxers or deep staters or defund the policers or everything is riggeders to swing a general election, they can certainly swing a primary. Why? Because of low turnout and how the stupid party system developed a process that oversamples extreme voters. Okay, so it's the system. Yeah, the party system. That's why I think it sucks and has to change. The second reason is that the media overcovers extremism and allows it to dominate the dialogue. Why? Because outrageous things get clicks and views, and that creates reach and revenue. It works. But social media is not reality any more than the WWE is a real fight. It's filled with propagandists and posers who are exploiting people and positions to build platforms, to cash in. And it works real good. But there's also good news. What works on social media is not reality. The big names in digital media that are making fortunes and count millions in their fan base rarely get mentioned in major media or in the halls of power. They rarely impact anything but their own bank accounts. Think about it. Joe Rogan is a huge name. Alex Jones, a huge name. All the righty firebrands who are into politics, they get tons of views, right? As much or more than major media. We envy that. We're trying to get into that space, right? But their gotcha crusades and their enragement efforts, getting as many angry or against something as they can, they don't swing elections. They don't drive votes or agendas. Not really. What works there should not be relied on as realities. Americans in the main don't hate each other, okay? And they don't hate everyone and everything that they don't agree with, or people who don't like the same memes. Now, I want to show you a very off-color example of the disconnect between what works on social media and what works in reality, okay? The clip I'm about to show you, the young woman I'm about to show you, has more attention on her than either presidential candidate on social media, okay? Welcome to the Huck Twa girl.
What's one move in bed that makes a man go crazy every time?
Oh, you gotta give him that huck to and spit on that thing. You get me?
A stupid late night clip. Huck to. Millions and millions of views. Viral times viral. And now almost as many memes where huck to is the solution to everything. Uniquely social media, right? All platforms. It's all over the place. She is too. Why? Who knows? Who cares? Something about how she looks versus the outrageousness of what she said, and a crass sexual reference never hurts, right? But while she's having this shine moment on social media, turns out she's allegedly a teacher and the school found out and she may be out of a job. Because that's reality. Now, I don't know enough to have a take, but I don't like people losing jobs over silliness, and this is silly. But the point is, what gets a lot of attention there doesn't always translate, no matter how much hook you put on it. And there are signs that we are exhausted by the extremism and the ridiculous, and we want reasonable and rational. And we see it in the primaries of all places. Remember, that's where extremists usually mean the most. How do we see it? Well, we see it on both sides. Being a Trumper, no longer a guarantee of winning a GOP primary. He lost 3 out of 5 this week. Would have been unheard of a few weeks ago. Now, the reason why is key. People, even in primaries, even in red places, are tired of the lies, tired of the enragement. They want engagement on ideas and problems that matter to them, not just to the few. The election's rigged. The vax is big pharma's attack on all of us. Everything's corrupt. Deep state, DOJ. Enough. You can't prove it. So move on to what can be demonstrably false and what can be fixed. Even the right is moving to reasonable. Not completely, but it's not as complete a capitulation as we've seen to crazy, right? Same on the left. Who would have thought, certainly not me, that AOC giving the full squad scream would not rally the far left, especially in New York, especially in New York City. And she did that repeatedly for Jamal Bowman in the New York congressional primary. Here's a taste. She had the y'all, she had everything but the hook on it. And Jamal Bowman lost, and he lost big. He got beat bad by a guy who represented nothing like the far left. Plain old Democrat. Old Democratic ideas. Like, don't call your ally Israel a genocidal maniac. And guess what? It won. Sure, AIPAC dumped a lot of money in it. Hey, but that's what you get for being anti-Israeli. And if politicians want to start complaining about money in politics, they should start trying to do something about it other than fundraising every damn second. All right? Sorry you got beat in the money race. It's all you're about. That's on you. You want to change the rules? Please do. We'd love it. So we are seeing a change. Extremism isn't a given anymore, but it's fragile and uneven, as are our times. And that takes us to tomorrow. 24 hours away from the big night. Which man will capture what I'm saying and not play to the haters? To speak to you, to the rest of us, to give attention to the most, not the least. That's a big question. NewsNation's going to have all-night coverage of the historic debate. Why is it historic? Because this one's going to really matter. Much more for Biden than for Trump, in my estimation. Why? Because Trump and all of his allies and the media, and not offset enough by Biden's allies, have allowed this to become about whether Biden can do the job in real time on live TV. I think they set too low a bar for him. I think he's going to come out of the box and everyone's going to say, whoa. Now, can he sustain? I don't know. But it's the first time in history you're going to have a sitting president and a former president debating. I don't really care about that. I care about what I say. They've made it about Biden. This is Trump's first and I think only chance to prove that Biden is in the state of decay that he has told all of you he knows for a fact. So how does Trump do that? How does Biden respond? But let's start with Trump. He just admitted, I've been very aggressive before and, I was different and I got great marks. Now, that's not true, okay? He did not great marks. He has never been seen as having been successful in debates against Clinton or against Biden. Here's a taste of what didn't work.
Are you talking about
I'm talking about my son, Beau Biden. You're talking about
I don't know Beau. I know Hunter.
Yeah,
Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. It wasn't dishonorably.
Cocaine use. And he didn't have a job until you became vice president. And once you became vice president, he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
that is simply
and various
not
other places.
True.
He made a fortune.
My son.
And he didn't have a job.
Now, it didn't work. Why? Really aggressive, going after his kids, especially when no kids are attached to the teat any more than Trump's, right? So it didn't work. Now, given the context of what I laid out on top, which is I think people are sick of the sickness of extremism, and Donald Trump is also on trial in a way tomorrow night, not like in the other dozen places where he's being prosecuted, but against Joe Biden. Should he do it differently? You know who says yes? The one and only Bill O'Reilly. Good to have you. You have done a list of questions for both candidates, but you also have on BillO'Reilly.com thoughts about what needs to be done to be effective when it comes to being Donald Trump tomorrow night. What do you think that has to look and sound like?
Well, first of all, I don't think the former president should be mean, number one, because he needs more women to vote for him. Now, you can make your point without being mean. You can use humor. You can be self-effacing at times. So I would be very cautious about how I said what I wanted to say. It's not so much what Trump is going to bring to bear on that stage, it's how he does it. I want to say one more thing, that even though this will be a record-breaking debate, I think, for the very reason you articulated, see if Biden can make it through, to see if he's going to collapse mentally in the 90-minute exposition. That's the drama. These guys aren't going to say anything they haven't said a million times before. They're not. And the debaters, the moderators, they're not going to push it. They're going to ask the obvious questions. Both candidates know what's coming, and they have rehearsed answers that Biden's been rehearsing for 7 days in Camp David. Now, the mystery is, can he remember what he's memorizing? And that's what people will be looking for.
Now, when you get to the how, okay, what part of the how, mixing it with the what, in terms of what Trump wants to discuss, should he take my guidance and stay away from the rigged, stay away from the deep state? The majority doesn't want to hear it. They don't believe it. And it's not about them. Focus on them.
He's going to get a question very early on about the 2020 election. It's going to happen because that's what CNN wants. And he should have a prepared answer. My answer would be, look, I hold the opinion that there was a lot of misbehavior in that election. And I want to know certain things about it, like what happened to the $300 million Mark Zuckerberg pumped into the election. I believe these are legitimate questions, period, and then walk away. That's it. But he's got to have something, because that question is coming.
Yeah, well, he also, look, you can't do anything if you don't admit you lost, okay? That's his problem.
He's not going to admit anything like that.
But then he's going to have a tough night, and it's not just CNN. Anybody would ask him that question, Bill. We both knew that. This noise about Jake Tapper and Dana Bash not being fair.
I have the question.
Go ahead.
I gave my audience 10 questions that I would ask if I were the moderator of the debate. And if you have time at the end of the segment, I'll tell you an interaction that I had with Fox News about moderating the Romney-Obama debate. It's pretty funny and it's short. So my question to Donald Trump would be, there have been no successful federal prosecutions about voter fraud in 2020. Why do you think that is?
Because the judges are rigged. System's rigged. That's what he's going to say.
Okay, let him say it.
Yeah, he will.
That's a legitimate question, not an attack question.
No.
It's a legitimate question. No. Okay, so pose it to him and see what he's got. Do you have anything on Trump's list about reproductive rights? No. Donald Trump's not interested in that. And
what about all the women voters?
It's going to just be... He's not interested in the abortion thing. He's going to say... It's
not just abortion. It's IVF.
The Supreme Court ruled...
It's access.
Okay. Cuomo, look, I know you're obsessed with this kind of stuff.
Obsessed.
Here's what Trump will say, okay? The Supreme Court decided the states will make the call. and I'm okay with that. Bingo, that's the answer.
That's on Dobbs. That's not IVF. I'm telling you, IVF matters to a lot of families, Bill. I mean, we have it in our family. I'm sure you have it somewhere in yours. The idea that you may take that away or you're not going to speak to it.
If you look.
Go ahead.
All right. I'm not. But Trump has already spoken to it by saying he supports IVF in the face of the Alabama ban. He's already on the record of saying that. You want him to say it again? I'm sure he'd be happy to say it again.
Okay, fine. What do you have for Biden? And it's IVF. IDF is the Israeli force. He'll say he's for that also. Go ahead.
Okay, so for Biden, I have some really interesting questions. And again, they're fact-based questions. Okay, they're not bear baiting. You know, bear baiting was in medieval times. They put a carrot on a stick and they tease the bear in the pit. That's what the corporate media does. I don't do that.
I thought you were going to say they only have 3 words per question and they're going to be repeated 4 times.
Well, you're going to hear the same thing over and over. We're not going to have a country. Democracy's on the ballot.
Funny.
You're going to hear it. Okay? They should be fined when they say it, but they're going to hear it. So, Mr. President, so far, federal dollars to handle the millions of foreign nationals coming to this country is $150 billion. So far. Doesn't count state and local. New York City's going bankrupt, so is Chicago. Why did you change immigration policy that led to that?
Good question.
So you want to give both of these guys stuff they can't deny.
Good question.
All right? Thank you.
And what do you do when they deny it?
Let's hear it, Joe.
What do you do when they deny it?
Then you say, the facts are, and everyone watching can look them up, this, X, Y, and Z. I would also ask Biden about Robert Hur. Very interesting question for Biden. I would say, Mr. President, were you surprised that the special counsel appointed by the Justice Department wrote down, all right, that Joe Biden presents himself as a sympathetic, well-meaning, elderly man with a poor memory? Were you surprised Robert Hur wrote those words?
I like it. Tell us the story real quick.
Right?
Tell us the story real quick about you doing the debate at Fox.
Okay. So Romney and Obama, right? And I went into Roger Ailes, the boss of Fox, and I said, hey, look, let me moderate this debate, okay? I know both of these guys. They're both experts at evasion, and I won't let them evade. All right, I'll ask them a question. When they evade, I'll call them on it. You'll get the highest ratings in the history of Fox News, which they would have. And it'll be totally different. We'll shake up the world, shake up the country. So Ailes looks at me. He looks up at me. He's about 5'7". And he goes, Fox News would like to do debates in the future. Implying if I did a debate, they would never allow Fox News to do another debate in history.
Well, look, you know,
pretty funny.
If it were me, I wouldn't have any moderators. I would let the guys go at it and let people judge it for themselves. But there's a lot of pageantry in this. I do think tomorrow's a big night. We'll see how it plays out. And we're also fortunate enough to say Bill O'Reilly's going to be with us, taking us through it in real time. So we'll get real-time
don't keep
reaction.
me up too late, though.
I won't. We'll have you
Don't
early because that's when it matters.
Right. Because I get cranky. You know, as it gets as it gets later, so don't keep me up too late.
Yeah, I don't want that.
And I want it. Yeah. I want to mention real quick. I know Dusty's melting down up there.
Oh yeah.
Go to BillO'Reilly.com. We absolutely have the best debate coverage because we're posing the toughest questions. And I only got to 3 or 4 on NewsNation. So
there's plenty there.
But I got 10 to both. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you, Bill O'Reilly. All right. He'll be back tomorrow before and after the debate. 4 minutes, 5 seconds. Coming up, Trump and Biden, they're prepping. I don't know that that's true, by the way. I've heard that Biden's been prepping. I don't think Trump is. What does Dr. Phil McGraw think about Trump's disposition heading into this? And what does he think about Bobby Kennedy's role? He's got advice for all 3 candidates. He just interviewed Trump. You're looking at it. And he did Bobby. What does he think? Next. really good. You're getting Bill O'Reilly. Now you're going to get Dr. Phil. We got Shawn Penn coming up later in the show, talking to him about a couple of different things. But, if you want to talk about emotional intelligence and how to communicate, I mean, how are you going to do better than Dr. Phil? And now the legendary talk show host has been, putting his passion to purpose, but looking much more specific at our politics. He interviewed former President Trump. He just interviewed Bobby Kennedy. He just put out his new book that we talked to him about on the show called We've Got Issues. And he's taken on America's problems, and he's also taken on America's leadership. And he joins us now. Dr. Phil, pleasure. Thank you for joining us. And I wish you all success at Marriage Street Media.
Good to see you, Chris. How's everything?
All good. Thank God. Thank God. Thank you for asking. So let me ask you about Trump, and then let me ask you about Bobby. And I have a clip of the interview you did with him that's going to be out tomorrow. Actually, let's start with that because there's something provocative in here. Bobby Kennedy Jr. told you that he offered a proposal to President Trump, President Biden, which is, of course, going to make people wonder because, he's a big X factor. Let's look at a little piece of Dr. Phil's interview with Bobby Kennedy Jr.
I said to President Biden, I sent him a proposal. I said, let's do a spoiler agreement where we will co-fund a poll together, the two of us, and whoever in October and whoever is least likely to vote to beat Donald Trump will withdraw. Oh, do I expect that he will take that deal? No. But, I'm not a spoiler. A spoiler is somebody who cannot win.
And stays in.
And they stay in and disrupt the expectations of somebody who can.
So you've made him that offer?
I've made him that offer, yeah.
Has he responded at all?
No.
Well, you can't be surprised he didn't respond. But, Phil, what was your read on Bobby and on what he believes he means in this race?
Well, he says in all sincerity that he's in it to win it. He thinks that a lot of things can happen in the next 5 months. And I don't think he believes that President Biden is going to be the candidate in 5 months. I don't think he believes the Democrats are going to turn to him if President Biden drops out. But he thinks a lot can happen between now and then. And, of course, he is extremely frustrated that nobody will talk to him. And that's one of the things that I want to do is I want to give everybody a voice.
Good.
I mean, I want to own the debate lane in America, and I want him to have a chance to say what he has to say.
Good. Although, to use a word that you use more often, we've had enough debate. Debates about gotchas and debates about games. Conversation. That's what you're best at, Phil, is starting conversations and having people have discussions where they're going to agree and disagree, and that's okay. It's how you do it. Conversation could be a cure, and you would be very high on my list of people who could apply that remedy. Now, you also recently interviewed former President Trump, and you had a very interesting discussion with him, which I think is going to be very important to the voters. What's the big fear for a lot of people with Trump? What will he do if he gets back in? Because all he talks about is revenge. Watch this clip.
But there are headlines out there that say, when you win your second term, that you are going to make the people that have come after you pay. What if when you win this election you said, enough is enough? I think you have so much to do, you don't have time to get even. You only have time to get right.
Well, revenge does take time, I will say that.
It does.
And sometimes revenge can be justified, Phil. I have to be honest. Sometimes it can.
Uh-oh. What did you make of that suggestion?
Well, we kept talking about this, and, people can, focus on different parts of his answer. And trust me, I'm not naive. I don't think that I had one conversation with him and he reversed his position. But look, one of the things I asked him later in that conversation, Chris, and I know you probably saw it, I said, let me ask you this. Has it helped the country to have people coming after you? And he had to say no. I mean, it's been a waste of time for people coming after me. Then how is it going to help the country with you going after them? Listen, everybody's tired of that. Nobody wants all of this, got you, I'm going to get you, you're going to get me. That's like kids in the playground going after each other. Nobody's interested in their personal agendas. They're interested in what can you do for this country? What can you do to put food on the table? What can you do to keep people employed? What can you do to get my children educated? And Chris, you know me. I'm not a politician. I don't know politics. I think a lot of people that talk about politics don't know anything about it. I'm just willing to admit I don't know anything about it. What I focus on are the social issues, the things that impact the families. And right now, I think our educational system, for example, is on the brink of a catastrophic collapse. People need to be focusing on that sort of thing. They don't give a damn about whether he gets even or somebody strikes back. It's like, get over it. Come on, focus on what we hired you to do, what we voted for you to do. I think they would say that to Biden. I think they would say that to Bobby Kennedy. I think they would say that to Donald Trump.
It's easier, certainly, for Bobby to field that question, easier for Biden to field that question. There are a lot of people who want Donald Trump to be president to be a disruptor, to break stuff, to go after people. He is the grievance candidate. Now, my belief is there are not enough of those voters to win a national election. They'll be overwhelming in a primary, but they can't get him across the finish line. And he's going to have to reach out to people who are sick of left and right and their grievances and just want reasonable. Do you think he has it in him to do that?
I think he does, and I think he's going to have to if he wants to win. Look, your story goes really well when you're the only one telling it. You know, if you're talking to, if you're in the bubble and you're talking to people that are all like-minded, you know, it goes really well. Everybody's agreeing with you. Nobody's challenging what you're saying. And that's true of whoever the candidate is. But when people start saying, hold on a minute, I've got some issues, I've got some agendas here, then all of a sudden that conversation can kind of dry up and people get tired of hearing about all of your personal grievances. They said, when is it my turn?
Yes.
When is it America's turn? When is it my children's turn? When is it my turn in the grocery store? When is it my turn at the gas pump? When is it my turn at the border? I think that's what people are interested in hearing about. Sorry you got your feelings hurt. What are you going to do for me? People talk about politics being local. Look, politics aren't local. Politics are personal. People want to know what is in this for me. I'm not saying people are selfish, but at some point they want to say, what's in this for me and my family and my ability to take care of my own? You can't give away what you don't have. And if you aren't secure and safe, then you can't start taking care of other people.
100%. You get a big amen from me. I'm going to have to go from Dr. Phil to Father Phil, because preach, brother, preach. I'm telling you right now. I think people should be selfish. They need to be more selfish in their politics. Stop taking the bait and joining other people's enragement movements and start thinking about their own and what's best for their family. But we'll see. Tomorrow night is a big night, Dr. Phil. You have an open invitation to come back and discuss with us what you thought about the debate and the campaign going forward. I wish you all good things.
Well, I appreciate it. And, you know, I hope all of these candidates, even going into the debate tomorrow here, that people are tired of folks that are trying to win an argument. They're interested in hearing people trying to solve problems. And there is a huge difference between winning an argument and solving a problem. And that's what they're interested in. They're going to be listening to see, is he trying to solve a problem or is he trying to win an argument? And I want to hear people solving problems like we elected them to do. They're going to be listening for problem solvers up there, not people that are trying to win the argument in the moment. Enough of that. Let's start solving problems, and God knows we got enough of them that need it.
I hope you're right, Dr. Phil. Appreciate it. Everybody can see Phil's full interview with Bobby Kennedy Jr. tomorrow on Dr. Phil Prime Time. Dr. Phil McGraw, appreciate you. See you again. 4 minutes, 30 seconds. Up next, two-time Oscar winner, Shawn Penn. Arguably, certainly by me, one of the greatest actors of our time, especially in what he decides to take on, both in his professional life and in his personal life. You know I know him. You know I've watched him in action as a really true activist to fight the good fight. He's got a new movie and a mission. Both next. Two-time Academy Award winner Shawn Penn. He's probably one of the only guys where you call him a two-time Oscar winner isn't enough. Yes, he's a great actor. Nobody's going to argue with you about that. But he cares deeply. I would argue, as someone who knows him a little bit, he actually cares more about what he does outside Hollywood than in it. We've seen it. It's not just about what he says. It's about what he does. Anybody who's covered Haiti knows that. Anybody who cares about South America knows that. Anybody who cares about Ukraine clearly knows that, all right? And he doesn't just talk. He walks, literally, all over these countries, all over war-torn places, okay? Now, what does that mean? Well, we saw what it meant for him and his actions in Ukraine and the amazing and powerful film that he wound up doing about it. I was with him once, maybe twice, I think, while he was in there. And I saw his commitment and his whole team's. And, you know, it wouldn't be fair to any of us if he were only an activist or only an actor, but luckily he does both. And we're reminded by his genius in his new film, Daddy-O, saw it today. He plays a cab driver. And I would never have imagined he could pull off being a cab driver in any believable way. He does. He makes an unlikely connection with one of his passengers, played by Dakota Johnson. The whole movie takes place on their trip from a New York airport to Midtown Manhattan. I know that sounds abbreviated. It isn't. Here's a clip.
What you do for work?
I'm a programmer.
Computer?
Computers.
No.
No.
Like ones and zeros in that?
Like ones and zeros in that. You thought I was going to say something more girly, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought, yeah. Wedding planner. No, fashion.
Fashion. Not as many women code, I'll give you that.
Yeah, and you drew a line in the sand. Lifted your leg and left your mark.
I don't mind squatting.
Ooh, the intrigue. Shawn Penn joins us now.
Hey, Chris.
Good to see you, you handsome bastard. So what was the draw to this script for you, and what do you want people to take from the film?
It's one of the things is that it's this older man and younger woman talking about the sexual politics between men and women in ways that I make the joke that when I read this script written by and directed by a woman, produced by women, I could get away with saying the things in it, say one me, it's just I found it a very refreshing piece to be able to do, and I think just about human connection, and that's addressed a lot in terms of the way people lose themselves in their screens, and this is I felt like I got gifted with this one. It's a goodie.
Pleasantly surprised at how it's been received. A lot of critical acclaim coming into the release.
I only hear a little bit here and there about that kind of stuff. I pretty much live in my wood shop, so.
Well, it's getting it, so you should feel good about it because, films that seem to touch people these days and resonate are rare unless they're just stoking outrage. In terms of the state of play, as you see it in Hollywood, I was reading somewhere that you were talking about Milk. Harvey Milk, Shawn won the Oscar for it. Amazing portrayal that really gives you a sense of a period as well as a person. And that you were talking about how, since Milk, you've felt differently about acting, and you're not even sure if you'd be allowed to play Milk today. What does that mean?
Well, I think I certainly wouldn't be financeable or acceptable to the media, to the popular this culture right now. I think it's a shame. I think it's while God knows we have to focus on how to build options of diversity in every business. I think this is an unimaginative one that really is going to get us to the point where only Danish princes can play Hamlet. So we have always thought of it, and it's disappointing that's the way we're rolling.
Disappointing. How disappointing is it that wars have become fads, and that Ukraine had its moment? became a little bit of a political football, which I think has negatively affected people's paying attention to it, but that it's still going on in earnest, very seriously, and yet no real connection anymore. What does that mean to you? How do you explain it?
I think any of us, and I include myself in this, that right now have any kind of public forum on this, have to get better at telling the story about where this is going to take us in terms of the future of our economy, not to mention our principles, our history, our democracy. This is, not only war has become normalized, but hatred and divisiveness have become normalized. And I think about this every day that it's, and I feel like I've been a participant in that a lot of times in the divisiveness and in inflaming things. And so now I'm just recognizing better that we've all got a role in this. Ukraine is the symbol of unity that we really, selfishly, we should connect, support, and get that killing and destruction of infrastructure done.
I got to tell you, we need people with clear eyes and pure heart. And you check both those boxes for me. You do when I see you on screen. You do it 100 times more and better, in my opinion, when I see you in person. As I always joke with you when we connect, I need more Penn in my life. And I believe that's true about all of us. Thank you for what you're doing on screen. Thank you for the activism. I look forward to what's next, and I appreciate you coming on. I hope everybody sees Daddy-O.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, brother, be well. 3 minutes, 45 seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Shawn Penn. Up next, have your say. 844-968-7720. What do you got? Let's get after it. Those squeeze backs, by the way, makes it easier to get through the commercials, doesn't it? I'm trying to get a little bit of sound up with us so you just have a hint of what's going on, but you don't distract from the commercial because we got to pay our bills.
A little sound, I think, is going to be nice for
you.
A little bit,
so like you'll see me with other guests, or how Dusty's like, now we have no time left in the show. You went too long again. Nobody likes you. Who do you have on the phone?
A lot of people like you. I just happen to
not like me. Next.
I love you. Speaking of liking you, Sarah from Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Hello, Sarah.
Susan,
how you doing?
My mistake. It's Susan. I'm very sorry. It's Susan from Fort Wayne, Indiana.
That's almost the same thing. Susan, what's your question?
Yes, Chris. I was calling about what Dr. Phil's points about it's time to stop fighting, turn the other cheek again. But I always feel like the Republicans have been doing that just for the Democrats to keep continuing to stab us in the back and not wanting to work together.
So I see it a little differently, but I understand your skepticism. I don't think it's as simple as turn the other cheek. You know, that WWJ thing, you got to work on that on the individual side, okay? The idea that we should put that kind of judgment on others. Focus on yourself. Do you love mercy? Do you have forgiveness in your life? Do you practice kindness? That's for you, not for you to judge about me. In terms of our politics, we've got to get away from where opposition is a legitimate position. What's happening now, to your point, is the Republicans say, I'll stop the Democrats from all their craziness. And that's enough. So cooperation is a sin, right? Compromise is certainly a sin. That's what we have to get away from. And the good news is the majority isn't into that. People like me have magnified fringes because they're provocative, because people click on it, because it resonates with people, but it doesn't necessarily represent us. And I think that's what we have to recognize. And I think it's happening. Next.
Okay, now we are going to get to Sarah from Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Sarah, how you doing?
Fine, Chris. How you doing?
All right.
I'm a retired police officer from Ann Arbor, and my question to you is, what would you feel about this? At the end of the debate, Trump would mention all the victims of illegal immigration into this country, name after name after name, and at the end of the naming all these people, mention God Bless America. I feel that the victims of these immigrants need to be mentioned again.
Yeah, I mean, he'd be playing to his base. And I think that, look, here's what I think, okay? Obviously, victims' families matter. The idea that these victims' families have been ignored, I think, is a tough sell to me, because the amount of crime that illegal immigrants commit, especially serious crime, not including the entry, is a fraction of what the citizenry does. So if we have a homicide issue, which you could argue we do, I would argue we don't, but if you want to argue that, it's the citizens that do the disproportionate amount of killing, not the non-citizens. So I think that that's more of a base play. I don't think you're going to get the persuadables. I don't think you're going to get the suburban women who are worried about reproductive rights. I don't think you're going to get men who are worried about whether entrepreneurs and artisans have a chance in this society anymore. And most importantly, I don't think you're going to get the independents who don't believe that Trump wants to get anything done but get on a revenge tour. How does he move that needle? That would be my thought. And thank you for serving your community the way you did as a peace officer. Next.
I don't think we have time for another call, but can
Got a minute, 6 seconds.
No, okay, but it's not enough time. I want to share something with you. This is a crime story, and let this be a lesson to you. A Missouri woman is accused of trying to kill her husband by poisoning his Mountain Dew. Why, you ask? Because he didn't appreciate everything she does for him.
Really? Don't you think appreciation or deficit of appreciation usually flows the other way? Have you ever noticed the difference between how Mother's Day and Father's Day are regarded and respected? Huh? You see what I'm saying? You can poison my Mountain Dew, that's fine. But it doesn't really change the basic premise. I'll tell you something. You want to hear something really interesting? Did you know that murder for hire is one of the most robust and often disregarded homicides in society? People kill one another by contract just for better lives all the time. And you just rarely find out about it unless somebody snitches because they've been asked to do the killing. Can't tell you how many times I've talked to a spouse about why they tried to kill the other one. They didn't even hate them. They didn't even dislike them. They were just tired of how hard life was, and they wanted a better way, and they figured this was a fresh start with the insurance money. And that's marriage.
And murder for hire seems to be the most successful manner of homicide, then.
It is. It's very hard to catch.
There you go.
Very hard to catch.
You got to go with a final thought.
Okay, 4 minutes, 45 seconds. Final thought.